All right, we're back. It's part 2 of our Dudes Brunch end of year special, and we are now going to talk about all the things we hated about 2017. First up with the worst pop culture thing of 2017, it's of course Catherine DiMartino. Catherine, what was your least favorite thing of the year?
So, this is sort of a mixed answer, but Samurai Jack Season 5 came out earlier this year. I think over the summer, right? But I don't even know where to start with this because, like, Samurai Jack was a formative series for me. Like, Samurai Jack was in my thesis paper for college, and so I was really excited about Samurai Jack Season 5. Like, I had seen some of the stuff that they had released for it, and I was, like, pumped about it. I was ready. I was going to spend money to watch it, more importantly. But when it came time to watch it, like, I was mixed from the first 5 minutes because, like, Jack has a totally different outfit, and so I'm like, okay, well, something must have changed, and they're gonna explain that. But I'm trying to not spoil too much.
I mean, I feel like you're good to say what you need to for.
I have a list here. I'll just read you the list because that's faster. I don't understand Jack's character development because we don't know why he goes crazy. He had good coping mechanisms up until now, and then they just vanish. Like, we see the entirety of Samurai Jack, he's just cool with everything. He might be challenged by some things, but he's never like, I'm losing my mind for some reason. And then there's, like, a ship in the series that I don't like it's canonical. It's just everything about it is bad. I'm not even going to talk about that.
For the commoner, that means a relationship.
Yeah, there's a bad relationship based on garbage.
A forced relationship.
Yes, it was poorly written. Then there's a CG bike in the first episode that I was like, that they don't use any other CGI in the whole series. And then, okay, so his love interest has a transformation near the end of the series that is like a tropey as hell. Like, it's like, she was darkness and now she's living in, like, green again. And you're like, please, can you put real clothes on and stop wearing leaves? There's also a dick joke for the first time in Samurai Jack, and they put blood in it, which was supposed to be edgy. Like, originally it was designed to be like that, but then it became like a daytime television show. So I don't have a problem with the dick joke, except that it's the only one they make, and they don't, like, go for it on anything else. Also, I have a canonical problem with it in that there is a portal in the original series and he sees his future. So, like, what happened with that? The good parts about it, just to, like, soften the blow, the fights are mostly good. Scaramouche is really funny. The Suicide Shogun guys are really cool. Like, Tyler and I both have t-shirts of them. The returning characters are all great. And there's some tiger boys with letters on their shirts that I love.
So anyway, who saw this? Did anyone watch any of this?
A little bit.
I watched the first episode.
I read an article about it.
I was never into Samurai Jack. Like, growing up, like, for me, like, I don't have that emotional connection that you do. So, I mean, I saw the first episode. It seemed like, but then again, I didn't watch the original. So for me, it was kind of I couldn't really judge it for the past.
That has to be fine. Like, I'm interested in a take on it that has nothing to do with nostalgia because I don't have any way to experience it without that.
I was going to say, I never watched Samurai Jack when I was younger at all. Like, I saw a few episodes on, like, in passing, but I sat down and actually watched the first episode of this newer season earlier today. And I enjoyed it. I mean, once again, I have no idea. I understand the basic premise of it, of him being, like, put into the future or whatever and trying to fight the demon guy, Aku.
Aku.
I'm trying to remember. I don't know. I thought it was fun for me. I had a fun time. I enjoyed watching it. I enjoyed seeing him with the whole weird family ghost, like, guilt trip thing going on. I don't know. It was fun. I probably will go back and revisit the original series because I think the entirety might still be streaming on Adult Swim of the original somewhere. If not, I guess I'll find it somewhere else.
The whole original run is streaming on Hulu, for the record, for anybody who wants to go back and watch it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't watch the original very much, and I have only seen little glimpses of the new series. I feel like this year we had a lot of these TV reboots, some of them more successful than others. It's disappointing to me that Samurai Jack didn't live up to your expectations, Catherine, because I feel like it was such an interesting show in its original run, both artistically and in its plot line. And so, yeah, I mean, it kind of sucks to hear that it didn't do very well. It honestly is dissuading me from going back and watching it.
I mean, I would say that the real problem at the end of the day is that, like, it was a show that was clearly violent, clearly, like, you know, like, we had a well-defined character. Like, the stakes were set, you know, like, we knew everything that, you know, like, everything was very clearly laid before us. And in this new series, it felt like they just threw the entire, like show Bible out. And they were just like, he's unstable and crazy, and we're just gonna, like just go off the rails. And it almost feels like a show that would have been made at the time that it originally aired, and the original series would be a show that would come out now. Like, it feels so sophisticated and refined for, it feels so well done that it's a show that only happened once in a lifetime. And to be fair, it's probably impossible to follow up on that. It's insurmountable task of following up on that, and it just feels like they could have avoided so many pitfalls. Like, why does Samurai Jack have to have a relationship for a character that has really never ever felt human emotion? I mean, I guess at some point he needed to, but it was just done in the worst way possible. Like, they took so much care in the first series, and it just felt like they just didn't. They probably gave it to, like, a bunch of interns, is what it felt like. And they're like, you've seen, like, 5 episodes, just write the show.
That's a good... I'm responding positively to that. And we watched it together, so of course you have more insight into this. But I feel like we saw some similar kind of bad interpretations on the Power Rangers movie, where, I mean, you're going to have divisiveness on these reboot type things, because you're always going to have, like, oh, it's not like the original. And you all should know by now that I am very, like, okay, I'm open to something that's going to be different because I'm going to try to take it objectively. But there was no part of me that was, like, enjoying the, like, any kind of romantic moment with Samurai Jack. I'm like, that isn't what I'm here for. And I don't think anybody was here for that.
Like, no Genny Tartakovsky cartoon has ever been like, oh, I'm watching this show for the, like, romantic subplot. This is what I'm after. So,
next up with his worst of the year, it's Sean Evans. Sean, what did you dislike the most?
This year, I actually didn't really not like a lot, but I think lately the NFL has really been making me mad. I'm not a huge consumer of the NFL sports-wise, but as of late, I think with the rise of Me Too, the fact that there have been, like, so many players that are injured, protocols not fired, grown men acting very inappropriately on national television that are supposed to be, like, kind of role models. Maybe they don't feel like that. I don't feel like that either, but maybe they would be considered role models. It's just kind of sad. I think that the NFL is kind of, its ratings are dying and no one is really caring that much anymore, and they're just letting anything happen just so they can be another headline. So it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I think as a non-football fan, it's been really hard to want to care about football this year because it's become so controversial for all of these different reasons. And then adding on the fact that, like, the game itself isn't enjoyable at some point, like, it just becomes this kind of, like, political pawn, so to speak, that, I have a lot of friends who really love football for the sport of football, and even they are tired of talking about this stuff. So I can't even, like, I've just lost interest, honestly.
So Josh and I are strictly college. So even before everything that's going on now, and all the different ways that it is, I mean, NFL was never really something that I was into. And then on top of it, now that all of this stuff's coming out, I'm just like, you know what? I'm glad I'm, to me, NFL is, maybe it's just because I live in Columbus, so we're such a college football town. I mean, everything here is Ohio State. It could be different in other parts of the world, but here at least, NFL is dead, and I mean, you've got the Browns, but NFL is dead pretty much. Yeah, might as well be dead.
Feels like a lot of like sort of empires fell this year. Like YouTube's been having a lot of problems. Patreon almost took a huge nosedive, and like the NFL is like feels like another like one of those kind of like titans that's like, you know, really it was taking a hit. And I would say that like in some ways, in like specifically in Cincinnati, like we're seeing like people are so excited about soccer, you know. Mostly because it's new, mostly because they're, you know, they're not, you know, they're doing okay. You know, I think people are just excited about a different kind of sport. And so, you know, maybe this is the opportunity where, you know, soccer kind of, you know, picks up some ground, makes some headway with American fans.
Yeah, I feel like the same thing is starting to happen in Atlanta. Atlanta United just had their first season, but I think next year is really going to be the year where the city like truly galvanizes to them now that the Falcons have no chance of being in a Super Bowl.
That's so Columbus was one of the original. The Columbus Crew is one of the original teams when the American Soccer League started. And I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with this, but we're having a huge. We're potentially going to lose the Crew. The owner is trying to sell them to Austin, I think. So that's another thing. I mean, just in Columbus, because soccer was a really big part. Everyone loved the Crew, and then now we're potentially losing them. So, you know, I don't know. It's Columbus is kind of weird because we're our own little bubble, but it's interesting to see not only what's going to happen with the Columbus Crew, but the way American soccer is going now. Just because, I mean, let's be real, like in 2011, nobody really talked about soccer. And now all of a sudden it's become this huge thing, and it's a huge industry, and a lot of cities are getting into it. So I'm excited to see what happens. I am less excited to see what happens to Columbus Crew, but who knows? Columbus may be without a team here in the near future.
Sean, I know in the past you've done some fantasy football and you've like paid a little bit of attention to the NFL. Do you see yourself regaining that interest, or are you just going to go heavier into your already strong interest in the NBA?
Yeah, probably just NBA and hockey. Probably more so hockey. I just don't. Honestly, I just been paying a lot of attention this year to the NFL because of it. Originally started out with the whole like Colin Kaepernick thing, and I think just going to go off and say my opinion here that I would like to see if he can produce evidence that the league colluded against him to make sure that he didn't get a job as another quarterback for a team, because I feel like that's probably true. I know that we try not to go down those political routes on this podcast, but I think there's a lot of truth to that. Man, but if that didn't get a rocky start to this already awful, terrible season, we're there now. So, yeah.
Why is this a particularly awful season?
Injuries are high. The calls are terrible. They tried this gimmick where they were going to let celebrations happen in the end zone. It basically was a flop. Like, no one cares. Just watch Bengals Steelers from 2 weeks ago. Everything that's wrong with the NFL today was in that game. And it was a Monday night game. Yeah. It's disgusting. Just like the taunting and like trying to injure people on purpose and blood sport. It's just disgusting.
Next up to share her least favorite thing of the year, it's Janet Ford. Janet, what was your least favorite thing of 2017?
So my least favorite thing of 2017, I also struggled with this because just as a whole, 2017 has been kind of a shit show. But to go with kind of a funnier route, it was Cash Me Outside Girl. And not the original meme. I didn't hate the original meme. It's the thing I hate the most about 2017 was like we've got this bratty girl who is just like acting out and honestly just needs a good smack or something like that.
Whoa.
I'm not saying that you should hate your children, but she was, doing all of this stuff for attention, trying to fight people, all of this stuff. And what does society do? We make her super rich. She's now signed to the same label as, I forget the name of the label. She's signed to the same label as Cardi B. She's got this rap career now. And she, to me, it's just one of those things where we shouldn't have rewarded her. So the meme itself I thought was hilarious. A little bit overdone, but all memes are. But what happened afterwards where she, is now been, in my eyes, rewarded for bad behavior and is now, she's now this rapper and she's now making a lot of money and she's super young too. That's the other thing. She's 14 or 15 years old. And I just think that we as a society shouldn't have let that happen. And we shouldn't have, given this girl this career and given this girl all this fame. And so that was my least favorite. I know I sound like such a crotchety old lady who's the youth and they're disrespectful. But that was truly, because at first I was okay, this girl, she's learned her lesson. And then it turned out she didn't. And then she came out as Bad Bobby, which is horrific. And the song she made was also not good. And I was just oh, come on. And when I was looking for this, I actually looked up and her dad's trying to get back in the picture and is convinced she's going to do porn and all this stuff. And I was on top of all this, she's a little girl. She's 14 and we shouldn't be sexualizing her. We shouldn't be, cause I don't know if you've seen her music video, but she doesn't look 14. And, I just think,
yeah. She's not very old.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and I know, and it's one of those things where, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and I think if you're out there doing this stuff, then people are going to pay attention to you. But I just think we as society and the people who signed her onto that record label and the people who are, giving her work, I think that's something that they should take a look at the big picture, that this is a 14-year-old girl and we're manipulating her. And it's not going to end up well for everyone. So meme was great. What happened afterwards, not so much. That was my long rant about Cash Me Outside Girl.
I was not aware of any of this. I only remembered the Cash Me Outside meme. And I just have a fun anecdote about the meme that a good friend of mine asked me to explain that meme to him because somebody said "Cash Me Outside" to him, said it out loud, and he opened Square Cash and tried to send her some money because he thought that that's what she meant.
That's such a nice person.
What? But I love Cash Me Outside Girl because I feel like a lot of people had that moment with that meme where they were like, what the fuck even is this? It was such a bizarro meme, and it was always spelled out phonetically, so you could never really tell what she was saying unless you watched the original video clip. But you're right, it's absolutely devastating to see what people have done to this poor girl, and she said a dumbass thing on TV one time, and it's gonna result in her making a lot of regrettable life choices, which is very unfortunate.
Or not, and nothing bad will happen to her.
Well, I didn't know all that stuff about it, but now I'm thank goodness I know now. I mean, it's like that childhood fame kind of bad where, that there's no way that they can be a normal person after that. And that's the saddest part.
Yeah, imagine starting your first real job after college and your coworkers Google you and find out that you're Cash Me Outside Girl.
Yeah, the Irma Gerd girl. She didn't that meme didn't become a meme until she was already older than that, and she didn't look like that person. She didn't take credit for that image for a long time, and so it didn't follow her everywhere. But so it's interesting to see that that's going to happen more probably.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be, especially in, I always joke with people, the meme economy nowadays is it's we're just we take memes and then we throw them away, where we don't savor the memes anymore. But I think it's going to be really interesting in the next, 10 to 15 years, where you've got these kids really who become viral, and they're viral for 3 months, but that sticks with them. So, 15, 20 years from now, when they're trying, if, whatever they may end up doing, that's going to stay with them. So I think that just in meme culture as a whole, I think that's going to be something that is it's going to be interesting, and hopefully it doesn't happen to like me or anybody that I care about. And it's also really scary. I mean, because my Gerd girl, I know I can't say that out loud, but she, I read like an article and that wasn't like somebody found her picture online and just used it. And, so it's like, it's also kind of like terrifying, like all the stuff we put out in social media and all the stuff we put out on the internet, like, I could go viral tomorrow and it's not me doing it. It's someone else doing it. So I think in 10 to 15 years, it's going to be kind of interesting when all of us are like middle-aged, what that's going to kind of look like.
That's an interesting point. I think that I never really thought about. Like, this is a 14-year-old girl. Like, she's still relatively in her developmental stages. Like, how is this going to affect her, like, growing up? Like, what's she going to be like in 20 years? How is this going to, like, change her personality or, like, her behavior, I guess.
Yeah, well, there was, I read an article. This isn't funny. I'm sorry. I laugh when I get uncomfortable and I see uncomfortable news. Well, so after the Dr. Phil segment, they sent her to some like horse care farm and she had to like take care of horses, and she found this old horse and she went on this journey with this horse and like learned how to take care of the horse. And then she did like a follow-up segment. Dr. Phil told Dr. Phil that she made him and then got offered this record label. So I think, like I hate to be like a pessimist about stuff like this, but like unfortunately with her, I don't see it turning out well. But then again, I always assume the worst. So hopefully Cash Me Outside girl, finds what works for her and she lives a happy life. That's what I hope. And I also hope I don't know what happened to the horse, so I hope the horse is okay also.
I was going to such a dark place. I was like, what's she going to do to this horse?
I don't, literally the article was like, it had a picture of her riding the horse and she was like, look at this horse. And then nothing. It was like the show ended. She left the horse farm. And, like, now she's a rapper. I was like, what happened to the horse? No idea. I'm going to assume it's okay. I'm going to assume there were other people there taking care of it. But concerning about the lack of details regarding this large mammal that she was taking care of.
Did the horse get a record deal, too?
I hope so.
That's going to be a documentary in 20 years. Like, where are they now? Where is this girl's horse?
A Netflix original, Cash Me Outside horse. So I'm next up, and my least favorite thing of 2017 was alt metal band Disturbed covering Simon and Garfunkel's The Sound of Silence. Y'all, I hate this cover so much. Every time I turned on the radio this summer, it seemed like this stupid song was on, and there are so many problems with that. First of all, The Sound of Silence is not a song to listen to in your car with the windows down in the summer. It is not a happy song. And so the fact that it was like on repeat on alt-rock radio in the summer is already problematic. Then you throw in the fact that it's a Disturbed cover. Disturbed. This is the band that unironically made a song called 10,000 Fists. Come on.
Well, maybe this is just not something that's for you.
No. This is not something that's for anyone. The Sound of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel is probably like one of the best songs of the 1960s. It's extremely important historically. It's a great piece of music. And then you have Dave Draymond doing his ridiculous, like, metal-y voice over it and, like, these melodramatic strings that are way too over the top. And, like, it just seems like the world's worst MTV Unplugged session. I hate everything about this song. It just pains me to the core.
I don't hate it.
I liked it.
I liked it.
Fuck you guys. Get out.
I'll straight up. Oh, also, Taylor, this song was released in 2015, so check yourself.
Ooh.
Then why was it on the radio this year?
I don't know. But I don't know. I liked it because it was an interesting take on a really iconic song. It was not. It wasn't a good cover. Like I have a history with Disturbed. Me and Taylor go back, where he would give me shit because I used to listen to Disturbed when I was in high school. But I mean, it's not. It's just interesting. It's not. I mean, Sound of Silence has been covered to death, but this is like a there's not been one like this. It's different, I think. And
Yeah.
it opened the landscape to a lot of people who would never have heard Simon and Garfunkel, and I think it's really created a lot of different avenues for some people who would never know about this kind of music.
So let me ask you this, you all. I said this to Tyler as we were listening to it before the show, but is this song an abomination?
Stop.
I feel like yes is the answer, because you don't have to, like, I'm not really into it. Would I put it on a list of abominations, though? I am about to.
So for me, so recently my humor has turned for the, I guess depressed is the best way my humor has taken that turn. So like for me, like I say these lyrics all the time at work, like something bad will happen and I'll just turn around to like somebody in a meeting and I'm like, hello darkness, my old friend. So for me, I don't know if it's just because like my humor has taken that turn, but like to me, like that this song has always had that kind of like deeper, grungier tone to it, I guess. So I didn't hate it. Also, I really like the fact that it's 4 minutes and 20 seconds long. I know that's juvenile of me, but when I just Googled it, I was like, oh, holy shit, 420. So that made me laugh, but I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I'm sorry, Taylor. I liked it. I will probably play this at my next meeting that something goes horribly wrong at, so.
Ugh. And the funny thing is, like, I totally understand where you're coming from, because I loved in the most recent season of Arrested Development that they use that song as a gag. Where, like, anytime a character is sad, they play the sound of silence. But for some reason, this version of this song, it was like nails on a chalkboard to me all summer this year. I couldn't handle it.
That's fair. It's weird to play on the radio, and it's weird to play it in the middle of the summer. I will give you that, but as a song, I don't.
Yeah, it's like July in Atlanta, and you're rolling down the highway going 75 miles an hour to Hello Darkness, My Old Friend. Like, no.
That's weird. I'll give you that.
All right, so next up, Ben Pentecost, what was your least favorite thing of 2017?
So my least favorite thing was the deluxe release of Blink-182's album from last summer, California. And I say this very sadly as a lifelong diehard Blink-182 fan. I don't know, it felt very forced to me. So this album was recorded over a period of like a month. They recorded like 50 songs. And if you listen to this deluxe album, you can definitely tell that they wrote like 3 or 4 songs a day over a month. It feels very recycled. It doesn't feel too original. A lot of it sounds kind of samey. I don't know. I was super excited about it because I was like, cool, new Blink-182 music, because they're one of my favorite bands, but it was just really disappointing. There wasn't anything that really excited me about it at all. Like, there wasn't a single track that I was like, yeah, I'd go listen to that again.
So this deluxe edition is like a whole album's worth of additional tracks on top of the album that came out last year. For me, I feel like they probably could have pitched this as a separate album, and I see why they didn't, because you're right. The quality wasn't there. I think there were 2 good tracks in this whole collection. Misery was pretty good, and 6-8 was pretty good. And everything else in here just felt like filler. And I think, honestly, if they had put those 2 out as bonus tracks on the album, I would have been totally fine with it. They could have even thrown in the joke song, Can't Get You More Pregnant, and I would have been like, cool, whatever, it's Blink-182, it's fine. But the fact that they put out a whole different release, they changed the cover art, they did a double LP set, they like made this big deal out of it, and all these songs just really aren't that good. You know, I'm with you. I feel like this was kind of a cash grab.
I actually, from what I understand, their recording contract only allows them to release an album once every couple of years. And so they released this deluxe edition as like a way around that because they wanted new music to put out. But they like literally were not allowed to put out a new album. So they just put this on the same label as California and called it a new album.
How very punk of them.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, like, California felt like such a step in the right direction. I feel like bringing Matt Skiba in and doing some new things on that album was really exciting. But then all of these songs just felt so stale that it makes me really question this new direction they're going in.
That's the most disappointing thing, I think, because California was a good mix of old Blink-182 and new Blink-182. It definitely wasn't their best album, but it was a step in the right direction from Neighborhoods and the reunion and whatever. And then this came out, and I listened to it all the way through once, and I haven't listened to a single song since. Just like, it was so disappointing.
Right, like, I didn't really listen to California that much. Like, I think I listened to a few of the main songs. I honestly forgot that they even put out an album. But like, I listened to these, and I was just like, God, I don't know if I like this new direction. And to be fair, I also feel like Blink-182 is best when it was the dual vocals of Tom DeLonge and Mark Hoppus. I think they had different enough vocal styles to really like kind of like differentiate songs. And it feels like Matt Skiba doesn't really have that like drastically different of a voice or a vocal style to really make a difference. But I mean, they were fine. They were just fine songs. Like, I'm still questioning why these 40-something people are writing songs for 12-year-olds, but I mean, that's...
Was this what we were listening to in the car?
Yes.
Okay, our thoughts on it. Let me summarize what we talked about in the car about this, because we listened to it on the way home, actually. But I remember saying that all Mark songs sound sad. And when they're all Mark songs, they're all sad. And, well, what else do we say about it? Just that it seemed, I don't know, it was, I made a comment that it was like, did they make any happy songs, really?
To be fair, this is like a B-sides album here. Like, we're talking...
Right, that is also
yeah.
To be fair, I feel like the dynamic has always been like, Mark is very grounded, and I feel like Tom DeLonge takes you to like a magical place. Like, he's just like a wizard. He's like Gandalf.
2 dicks for space.
It's a Lord of the Rings, and Mark is Frodo, and he's just like, I just want to get back and enjoy my pies. Tom DeLonge's like, I would go on an adventure, Mark. Please, let's go.
That being said, I didn't feel like it was like technically bad or anything. I wasn't like, turn this off. You know?
That's honestly the worst part about it, is that like, it's technically a good album. It's just the songwriting is so mediocre that you're like,
Like, I feel like Blink-182 is their strength is that it feels like they can make an album and every song feels like they have a different hook, a different sort of setup. Like, it feels like that, like, you're not, like, lots of punk albums follow a very specific formula, very, very structured. And Blink-182 kind of bridged that with their pop elements, and that's what really made them exciting as, like, a band. Like, their self-titled album, I still think is one of their best because every song is, like, completely different. It doesn't, like, feel like it copies anything from song to song. But these songs were just, like, a little too samey for me.
All right, so next up, it's Tyler Reed. Tyler, what was your least favorite thing of 2017?
Oh no. Alright, everybody. This was a year for a lot of things. And this was definitely a year of milkshake ducks. And the biggest milkshake duck of them all for me was Nick Robinson.
Quick sidebar, milkshake ducking is where a beloved person on the internet turns out to be awful in some way, and the entire internet turns against them.
Right. So, Nick Robinson was previously a mono YouTuber. He had his own channel where he did interesting content. He then joined Polygon. He did lots of stuff with Griffin McElroy. Great video series, great podcast. Cool Games Inc. was honestly one of my favorite podcasts of all time. Like, there was just so much good content him and Griffin were sort of doing together. And he had, and the saddest part was that he was so excited for Sonic Mania to come out. I was like, yes, someone's in my corner. I feel like I can really get behind this person. But at some point, it sort of came to light that he had been sort of, whether he intentionally was doing this or not, he was sort of in some ways using he was talking to girls, and he was really sort of like, you know, sliding into their DMs, as you call it. And so it felt like, and there was like, it's not like he wasn't like a Harvey Weinstein situation, but it was enough to like, for people to seriously consider like his credibility, because he was one of those people that we considered to be someone that was, very progressive, very on the side of women. He was friends with the McElroys, which have always, as we've alluded to before, are very open to, very, very, what's the word, Kat?
They're very forward thinking.
Sure, yeah. And so, like, and he got fired from Polygon, and so, after, like, a few days of sort of, like, deliberation, and so, like, it was just, like, this, it was just a terrible, like weeks, well, not like, it was probably, like, a solid week where I was just, like, fuck, this is, like, one of my favorite content creators, someone that I had even, like, was, like, he shares so many elements of, like, my life. Like, I could relate to so many things of his, and it was just like, okay, well, how do I consume this person's media? Can I? And so, this was, like, right off the tail end of, like, Car Boys, which was this fantastic YouTube series, and it was just, like, I was just devastated. But yeah, so I feel like at least Taylor had consumed some of his media. I don't recall how much.
Yeah, I had just started watching Car Boys when these allegations started coming out, and I stopped. I haven't finished it. And I think this has been really the story of 2017. We've alluded to similar things across this whole 2-part episode. We mentioned it with Kevin Spacey and Baby Driver. It's like one of the hardest things about 2017 culturally has been figuring out how to deal with separating problematic people from the art that they make. Mm-hmm. And I think in some cases it's easier than others. And unfortunately, Nick Robinson is this really good example of where, like, his personal life and his real personality is so tied to his media, as opposed to, like, a Kevin Spacey where he's playing a character, that it just becomes that much harder, right? Like, you can understand that Kevin Spacey has done bad things, but still, like, watch him in a movie and be like, Kevin Spacey's playing a character, and I understand this character as a unique person. Nick Robinson was always Nick Robinson in everything that he did. He was Nick Robinson in Car Boys and in Cool Games Inc. Like, he was never trying to pretend to be somebody else, which makes these, like, situations that he was in and these horrible things that he did so much worse in a way, because you're like, wow, like, under the surface of this person that I thought I loved is, like, this really horrible monster.
I want to weigh in on this, but it's hard to know how to articulate because there's a lot of roads you could go down here. And there's a lot of places that we've been this year, especially because we've even approached different types of media having these problematic persons, not to put too fine a point on it. And some people will just see it as a black and white situation, like, oh, well, I guess I'm just not watching any of this anymore. Or, like, throw it out in the garbage. And I will certainly, like, I did that with Nick Robinson stuff, because I was like, I don't need this, put it in the garbage. Griffin McElroy makes plenty of content for me to enjoy by himself. And of course with Kevin Spacey and a variety of other people that have details about them have emerged over the last year, it's been like, I asked myself, like, what the loss here is, and I made a statement earlier this year that was like, well, the real loss is that we were missing out on, like, the media that could have been made by people of color and women and, like, other types of people that are not as well represented. Like, that's the great loss, not these actual men themselves. Like, it's what they, whatever, like, however you want to kind of interpret that, I guess, or, like, that we can also not ignore the damage that they did to, like, their industry and the women or the people that they harassed or whatever the allegations against them were. I think
that's an interesting point. And I think, Taylor, something you said was interesting too, in regards to, you really felt like you knew them and it was part of their personality. And I think the reason why the current allegations are, first of all, just so many people are coming out, and it's because, not saying throughout the history of celebrities. But now more so than ever, we're seeing people creating a brand on themselves. So, you know, before it was an actor or an actress, and you had a few socialites, but now in this millennia, we're seeing people really building a brand off of who they are as a person, and that's their main selling point. They're not acting; they're just being themselves. So I think that's really interesting that you brought up that you know, you have these people who these allegations come out, and then you're like, wait, but I thought, you know, that they didn't seem like that. It's somebody who I thought like you said, loved. So I think that's really interesting. With smartphones and the way we communicate with each other, I think now it's also interesting because now we have so many ways of documenting if people are saying things or you know, proof that, or I don't want to say proof. Allegations are allegations until, you know, and I'm not going to come out and say one way or another how I feel about anything. But I think that's also been another interesting thing because a lot of people have come out and said, you know, why didn't they do this before, or why now? I think it's the way we as a society interact with each other has definitely changed. And, you know, there are text receipts, there are emails, there are so many ways that we can keep track of what was said and what happened and things like that. So I think these allegations are a necessary change. I think we're doing a lot of good by talking about things, and bringing things out that are, you know, ugly that we don't want to talk about. But I think it's an interesting, I keep saying the word interesting, I'm sorry. I think it really shows the way we as a society has changed and how we as social creatures have really changed the way we interact with one another.
No, I think that was really good.
I think, well, I agree with Catherine. I think that the real loss here isn't that, like, these people that were so we were so inclined to, like, believe in and think, like, yes, these are like the idealistic person I wanna be like, or like this is like the cool guys, or I don't know what I'm trying to say, but like the thing that's like the worst about it is the loss, because it seemed like, I'm not familiar with Nick Robinson and I don't know much about him or anything, but I just Googled his like apology, and it seems like this is the case with many of these celebrities that are like getting accused of these things. They don't seem to grasp the severity or the gravity of what they did, and it's just kind of like, yeah, I'm sorry to the extent that like it'll save my image. You know, it doesn't, they don't understand, like, this is how many, like, what the waves that they created with this, you know, is.
No, I agree. I think you could also make the argument that they might not care. I mean, that sounds horrible, but the number of, like, half-assed apologies, it's just like, guys, like, it's such a big issue, and for them to just kind of not brush it under the rug, but be like, oh yeah, I'm sorry I did that. Like, you're ruining lives, you know? But I will stop before I go on a tangent about that. So, sorry, Catherine, I cut you off.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, if they knew enough to write a good apology, they would know enough not to do it in the first place.
Amen.
Last to share his least favorite thing of 2017, Zach Schonkweiler. What bothered you about this year?
Hey. Well, what bothered me got to bother me more. Once again, much like the seasons change every year, people trying to tear down net neutrality happened again, and it happened. Well, it got voted through, all that good stuff, that net neutrality was going to be pretty much taken apart. Last I checked, there were states suing the FCC, so that's good. So it's not, you know, it's not going down without a fight. It's just aggravating because it's like, does this happen every year? And yeah, they finally got it to pass this year, like within this week of us recording this. But it's just been aggravating every year, and now it just kind of pisses me off that like now it happened, and now there's all these like crazy things coming out where it looks like people who are deceased were like voting like for, or like making comments that were like pro for it and things like that. Like I can send a link of like some of the things later, but you know, there's all this like crazy stuff. Anyway, I mean, you guys know, you're smart, and I'm tired. I can barely talk. My brain no work good.
Yeah, I'm glad that we included this in this show, and I'm glad. Thank you, Zach, for bringing this up, because we've talked about this on all the shows on the network. You've brought it up on Ordinary Folk. We've talked about it here. Emily and I have discussed it on 10 Minute Tech Talk. And I feel like, if you're listening to this podcast at this point, if you've made it this far in, you probably understand the net neutrality issue to a certain extent and feel like it's a problem that the Title II protections were repealed. But it's a big loss. It's a frustrating loss, and it sucks that this is kind of the bookend on the year for the internet culture, unfortunately, is that now we're going to have to start 2018 off with a fight again. It's SOPA and PIPA and ACTA all over again, but worse. On the one hand, we all get tired and fatigued and we're sick of fighting over this, but at the same time, this is what we do. We sit here every week and record our voices across the internet because we care about this stuff. So I'm not going to stop fighting, and something tells me the rest of y'all aren't either.
Mm-hmm. I think the most infuriating part about all of this for me is that these people that are there, I read a statistic. It's 83% of Americans or something like that support net neutrality, and the fact that these people who claim to be public servants are just completely ignore that, and it's more frustrating this time. That's nothing new, but it's so frustrating because it was so blatant this time that they were just ignoring the wishes of these people. It's I don't know. It was, that just really angered me more than anything.
No, I agree. I mean, usually, I think, they don't do a good job, but I find usually politicians at least try to pretend that they're not doing something that just benefits them. And this time it just felt like every single time. The numbers don't lie. People want net neutrality. They don't want to, and it blew my mind that they could just come out so obvious that they're doing it in support of them, or they're doing it to benefit themselves, and they're doing it to benefit their wallets. And I think that is going to be really interesting in 2018, is just how obviously flippant they are about all of it, and just that they are not rubbing it in, but that's what I found most infuriating out of all of this year, was just how obvious they made it that they don't care what the American people want.
You mean the 5-minute video where they talked about all the things that we want to lose, where they basically teabagged us the entire time, and then hey, you can buy fidget spinners and watch cat videos. You're please.
Yeah, links in the show notes to Ajit Pai's just god-awful video from this week as we record. Oh my gosh, I can't handle it.
It's really the freshest video of 2017.
No.
Oh, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. I couldn't bring myself to... Yep.
I let the internet show me what was in it, and I was like, I'm not watching this. I'm not going to dignify this with the view.
The only good part about that video is that Ajit Pai prompted a Twitter feud between Ted Cruz and Mark Hamill, the actor who plays Luke Skywalker. And Mark Hamill just fucking tromped him. It was amazing.
That was a good one.
But I think that's a good note to end on as we close out 2017. It's been a rough year in a lot of ways, but it's also been a fun year, and there's been a lot to laugh about. And so as we go into our round of shameless plugs, I'm going to ask each panelist to share their favorite meme as well as their shameless plug for the year. Starting with my good buddy, Tyler Reed. Tyler, what was your favorite meme of the year, and where can the people find your work?
I forgot. I was supposed to look this up. Oh no. Is this my favorite one? That's probably pretty close. For the sake of brevity, to cut it short, I would say one of my sleepers is probably the slow brain expansion meme.
That's a good one.
I think this one that Thrillist decided to provide, I think was probably one of the worst examples, but it's 11, 10 and 1, 1, 1, 1 T1. It's close enough. Anyway, you can find my design illustration work at tiredread.com, and you can find me on the socials as TERDesign on Instagram and Twitter. Happy New Year!
Sean Evans, what was your favorite meme of the year, and where can people find you?
This morning I saw one of it's actually a GIF and not really a meme, but it was of a person in a horse mask that was looking at a horse, and the horse was looking at the person, and the person took off the horse mask, and the horse kind of trotted away giddily, and I thought to myself, this horse has a fantastic sense of humor, and that makes me feel really good about the world. So, thanks, horse.
And where can the people find you?
They can find me at sevens8910sevens8910.
Catherine DiMartino, what was your favorite meme, and where can the people find you?
This was really hard. But on a technicality, the white guy blinking meme, which is a GIF of Drew Scanlon from 2013, actually. But he's just like blinking surprisingly. That was a good meme, I think. The one that lost on a technicality was Hot Pocket, like, fillings meme. Because it was actually from last year. But you can find me at catherinedmartino.com. That's my web portfolio. And on all the socials as Excellent, except for Twitter, which is Ixelcoatl.
Zach Schonkweiler, what was your favorite meme, and where can the people find you?
I was a big fan of the Redbone remixes of Childish Gambino's Redbone, despite how monotonous and crazy they got. Also really enjoyed the boyfriend one, the distracted boyfriend, especially when it dealt with Star Wars the past month or two. But yeah, those memes. And my favorite meme, America. No, I'm just kidding. Not going there. So anyway, hey, how's it going, guys? I'm Zach Schonkweiler. You can catch me on Twitter at ApologeticABomb. Also check out my podcast, Ordinary Folk. Also check out my sketch group, Dr. Boyfriend, on YouTube. You won't find it because our keywords suck. So.
But there are links in the show notes. They'll find it in the show notes.
There.
Janet, what was your favorite meme?
So I know I said this earlier. I really feel like memes we're just wasting them and then we're just throwing them away. And I feel I have a love-hate relationship with memes because for the most part, they're like really funny. And then the internet just takes them. And then it's like 3 months later and you're just like, okay, I just stop. I think the one that is consistently still pretty good is the Living in 3017. It's the one of like people doing weird stuff, and then they're like, "We're living in 2017, but this dude's living in 3017." I really like that one. There were a few. So I'm on Harper's Bazaar. They're showing me all of the good memes of 2017. I would like to do a shout out for the Bella Hadid "Homeboy's Gonna Like Get It," because that was just a weird interview. The one where she's pointing at sneakers and she says just like the most awkward thing about him. If Homeboy's coming through with these, it's quiet for him. But if he comes through in like these, Homeboy's gonna like get him. I appreciate that one. And sorry, one last honorable mention to this. I love this woman and her curvy body because I forgot that was even a meme of 2017. So, it's always good to go down memory lane. We have too many memes nowadays and I can't keep track of them. I say this every single time. Don't look for me. I'm dead on social media. That's not true, but I'm very private, so.
But we love you anyway.
Oh, thanks. Sometimes I really do think I should go public. I know I say that every single time I go on this show, but it hasn't happened yet, so.
Ben Pentecost, what was your favorite meme and where can the people find you?
Ooh, I have a hard time picking a favorite meme because there were too many memes in 2017, I feel like. So mine was a tie between the Trump executive orders and I guess this was the early 2017, the Obama-Biden memes I thought were great.
Good stuff.
Those were my two faves. And you can also find me on Twitter at Bentecost. And forthcoming is a website with all of my playing. If you need a trumpet player, hit me up because I'm struggling.
You're not struggling, you're hustling.
All day, every day.
My favorite meme of 2017, I first want to give an honorable mention to "Don't Talk to Me or My Son Ever Again," which I think was a quality meme. But honestly, I can't believe nobody said it before. Easily the most memorable meme of 2017, the one that's going to go down in the legend books, possibly even God meme.
Please.
Here come dat boy.
Oh, no.
Oh shit, what up?
Wasn't that 2016?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought that was 2016.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, I feel like Dat Boy came out in 2016, but I'll give you that. I feel like it did bleed over into 2017, but...
Dat Boy may have like started in 2016, but let's be real, it really became a thing in like January through March of 2017.
Dat Boy is a timeless meme. I think we can all agree.
Yeah.
He's a national treasure.
But I think what we actually forgot about was Shooting Stars meme.
I know, as soon as
Oh,
Tyler
yeah.
pulled it up, I was like, I made a mistake.
The
one's
entire
that one?
episode we
Yeah.
have about that.
We did do an entire episode about Shooting Stars meme, but nah, I gotta give some love to that frog on the unicycle, hashtag DatBoy. You can find me on the socials as at TC Olmstead. I'm on Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff. You can like and follow the show. We are at Dudes Brunch. And if you really like what we do around here, we would really appreciate it if you left us a review on Apple Podcasts or hit the little star button in Overcast to recommend us to your friends. Other than that, this is our last episode of 2017. So thanks everybody for hanging out this year. And we will be back in 2018 with more Dudes Brunch.
New year, new me.
Hashtag New Year, New Brunch.